And I looked at our cameras. And our cameras was someone random getting in the car and struggling with the door and getting in. We're like, holy fuck, this car gets stolen.
Yeah.
Customer calls us. Hey guys, I just need to pay for my car. We're like, what the fuck are you talking about? You need to pay for your car. Have you not heard our voicemail? Your car is not here.
Welcome to Off the Racing Line. Today's episode is packed with insights as we dive into HPDE. What is it? How to get started with track days, and the essential tips for prepping a street car for track usage. Instead of the usual instructor war stories, we're going to be sharing some unforgettable automotive shop nightmare tales. Our guest today is a motorsports enthusiast whose journey started in drifting and has since evolved into competitive racing. He's a certified master technician for BMW, Ferrari, and Maserati, and the owner of Corsa Technik, a European automotive shop. As the chief tech inspector at FARA events, he is the first line of defense for ensuring cars are track-worthy and safe. My good friend, Mr. Jonathan Salerno.
Great to be here.
Good to have you, man.
Here, guys. Great to be here. Thanks for finally inviting me.
It's the third episode. All right.
I have a question right off the bat. Why aren't you a Porsche certified mechanic?
Because I never worked at Porsche.
Okay. Yeah.
I've worked on many Porsches.
We'll have you on the show anyway. We can continue.
You.
Go ahead, Carlos.
Thank you,
Sorry for
sir.
interrupting.
We can make an exception.
Yeah,
okay.
for sure.
John, your journey into motorsports started in drifting. Tell me how that came to be and how and why you transitioned over from drifting into competitive racing.
Oh, man. Drifting was, I'll make it quick, and then I'll explain it a little bit more. Quick, it was the cheapest way to get into motorsports, and it was the quickest and easiest way with the crappiest car I had.
Which was?
An E36 M3.
A BMW.
Yeah, it was awesome. I learned how to do drift illegally, called street drifting, back when I had my E30. And it kind of led me to, you know what, I'm not so bad at this. When I moved to Florida, this was back in Georgia. When I moved to Florida, I met some friends. We started doing some street drifting. And when I mean street drifting, was always beyond warehouses, never actually like on public roads. Beyond warehouses, we always kept it safe.
No intersection.
No intersections.
Takeovers.
Nothing stupid. Yeah.
Well,
no takeovers.
That was before the takeover.
Right, it was pre-internet.
Yeah,
so nobody,
exactly.
Why would you do that if
we
you weren't
doing
posting
it for the videos?
Yeah.
I don't. It's funny because when you told me about this, and I was like, I wonder if I have any videos of me drifting. I have nothing. Yeah. Nothing from drifting. Like nothing until I was doing competition.
You weren't chasing clout.
Exactly right. I wasn't chasing clout. It was just for fun. Mm-hmm. And it became a thing where I was like, actually, this isn't bad. So in Florida, we used to go to County Line Dragway. Back, rest in peace, that place. Great little racetrack in the middle off of 27, middle of nowhere. We used to drift there all the time. Where else? Central Florida Raceway. I even drifted in Road Atlanta.
So where
Jersey,
did the transition happen? How did that happen?
So when I was drifting, it was fun, but it was fun to a point. And I always felt I could do more with this. The unlikely transition was I had to sell my drift car to fund my house.
Oh.
I sold my drift car, used it as a down payment, bought my house. Now, I was looking back and getting into the world of drifting and whatnot, and then I was like, you know what? Racing is going to be the course of this. I grew up a little bit more. The drifting crowd started getting younger to a point, and I was like, you know what? Racing, at least road course racing, is something I've never done. Let me try to get into this. And I bought another E36 M3 to try road course racing, and it was great, but it was daunting. So I actually did one event at Homestead, and after that, I was like, whoa, my car is not ready for this. I need so much suspension work, so much engine work. It's pouring oil. It's not the right place for this.
Yeah.
Let's do autocross. So that was fun. That was fun for a while. I just, no offense to the people that like autocross, I hate working corners. I hate working the cones.
I stopped doing autocross because of that. It was you do a 40-second run and then 2 hours worth of working the course.
Around.
I'm like, I don't want to do this. No.
Dude, I vowed that the day I could pay more to not stand, I will do that, no problem.
I think they offer that now, where you can actually pay more and not work the course.
Oh, I've never done autocross in my life.
Yeah. But anyway, so your progression was very much very intentional in educating yourself, in acquiring those skills to be a better driver.
Exactly. So it was interesting because once I left the world of drifting, I had a motorsport void for about 4 years. And in that void, it was just I was working in California, going back and forth before I opened the shop. But when I got my 36 and I got back into the motorsport world, I realized, man, it's kind of interesting because drifting gave me a certain skill set that not many other people have on track, which is car control.
So that was actually going to be my lead in, to the next question, which was that. What skills did you learn in drifting that transferred over to racing nicely? And you were just about to talk on that. And also address that and also tell me maybe some of the things that you had to unlearn from drifting to make you a better driver in racing.
It's funny. It's actually the answer to that. What I learned to help and what I need to unlearn are almost the same thing.
Really?
Slip angle control.
Okay.
So slip angle is an amazing thing that makes you faster, unless you do it too much. I probably do it too much, and I overdrive the shit out of my cars because I like the car feeling a little bit on the oversteer side. Slip angle control, though, made me be comfortable with that. When a lot of people, it's funny, we've posted videos before of my driving, and like turn one at Homestead, I'm like doing... I do steering wheel switches at turn one because the rear end starts coming out under braking. I'm completely comfortable. To me, I don't even notice it. I think Brandon or somebody else mentioned that you're crazy.
Yeah.
Like, how are you doing that at turn one? I don't even notice it. Mm. I do it even on turn 6. Turn 10. Down that. Sometimes the back end will come loose. So that was a little weird. Some people freak out. So drifting taught me to be comfortable with the slip angle, with the oversteer scenarios. But it's interesting because it's also that it can hurt your times.
Yeah.
Right?
It could also be a bad habit that you got into because you got so comfortable going sideways, and now you're very comfortable going sideways on the racetrack, but that's slow.
Right.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's actually really funny. My first or second, one of those autocrosses I did with my E36 M3, I went out and I was doing crap times. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to have a little bit more fun. I have a little more fun. In this specific autocross, the people didn't like
fun.
Drifting. Drifting was really frowned upon.
Yeah.
And they used to yell at me for doing it. And I understand. You want to mark up this asphalt and so on and so forth. But I realized this one day when I was doing the autocross event that if I put a little bit of slip angle, I was faster than by a tenth. Mm-hmm. And that's when it kind of hit. I was like, holy shit, wait, this actually means something. I'm doing this for fucking fun, but it's actually resulting in a faster time somehow. And I started doing it more and more, and then I realized this is too much. My time started dropping down.
Right.
So it's really interesting to see how it, like the dynamic approach between how you can use slip angle to your advantage, but if you go too far, it's completely negative.
It's a detriment.
It's bad.
It's a fine line getting the car pointed up the next straightaway just enough that you get back to wide open throttle as soon as possible without completely smoking the rear tires.
Absolutely right.
Having the rear end pass you.
Absolutely right. It also really helps having underpowered cars.
Yeah.
And that's really all I've learned on.
Let's transition a little bit over to your involvement in tech for FARA. One of the reasons you were chosen to run tech inspection for FARA is because your incredible attention to detail, which is something that I first noticed at your shop. Can you walk us through what it takes to ensure that a car is ready for the racetrack, particularly in HPDE?
So, at a bare minimum, right? I guess there's different tiers to this because how serious do you want to get into this, right? Like in the sense of, do you want to do race brake pads, race suspension? But at a bare minimum, if you're entering any HPDE, at least tires, right? At least have 530 seconds on them. At least, please. 330 seconds works, but if you're at wear bars, I mean, you're going to smoke them pretty quick. Brake pads, I would say at least 5 millimeters or more.
Like at least half.
At least
right?
half.
Right.
At least half. New brake fluid. And then from there, it really comes, it's more dynamic depending on the car. If the transmission fluid's never been flushed, if you haven't had oil change recently, if your power steering fluid is old, those things get much more dynamic and much more intricate depending on the car. But at a bare minimum, tires, brakes, and fluids.
Right. Those are things that you can visually inspect for.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And obviously seat belts and
Right.
the normal things.
Okay. So we talked about what you typically look for in a tech inspection. Tell me a little bit of circumstances where you had to fail someone's car because it wasn't track worthy and essentially voiding their track day.
Anonymously, of course. We don't call anybody out here on off the racing line, John.
Idiot in the Cayman. Avoid that.
This guy with a Cayman.
Right. Silver, number 18. He's the
guy
worst.
stealing my number. Right. It's actually a good question. So many of you probably know me from being your tech inspector. I know I come off as an asshole. I might look like an asshole. And I look like I want to fucking fail you, but I don't. Trust me, I don't. I just want everyone to be as safe as possible. That being said, I do have attention to detail on this. But mainly, man, I have failed people from having ball tires, like showing cords, to having metal brake pads, to having active oil leaks. Yeah. Like active oil leaks. Like you don't need to change your oil. If you just do a couple laps to put more oil in, you just keep going.
Yeah.
I've seen some cars that are in rough shape. But let me tell you, it's kind of funny because you can't judge a book by its cover. I have seen some cars, and I'm guilty of this, of judging a book by its cover. I've seen some cars roll up to tech, and I'm like, holy fuck, this car's not going to pass. And they are fantastic. I mean, they follow everything to a T. Everything is solid on the car. I'm super surprised. It's awesome. Good job. And then the flip side, I've seen the GT3 RSs come in with ball tires,
right,
or no brake pads, and you're just like, well, it sucks.
So we're going to talk a little bit in a minute about how can someone that's interested in this sport and getting into the sport, how to get their cars ready, for an event like this. So we're going to get into that for a second in a minute. First, I want to talk about some of the misconceptions that I think us consistently hear from people that want to get into the sport. One of those is that I hear all the time, and I'm sure you guys do too. Somebody that's wanting to get into the sport, and they're telling me, hey, I'm going to go to the track. I'm going to join you guys, but I got to add another 100 horsepower to the car, right? And you guys know that this is the last thing that you should be adding to the car before you hit the track. So can you tell us a little bit about maybe some other misconceptions that you've heard people think they need to go to the racetrack in their daily drivers sometimes?
Man, I would say the number one thing is power. That's like the number one thing. I have had so many friends of mine that say, no. I'm going to go next year. I'm going to go in a month. I just need to tune my car.
I need another 800 horsepower.
Yeah, I need another I need another 5 horsepower. Right. Power is, I'd say this, it's stupid. Right. Because it makes the car undrivable if you are not used to it. Right? So absolutely, I used to have an F87 M2 comp. I took it out to the track one time when I bought it and it was tuned. Horrendously too much power. Took off the tune, I was faster.
Yeah.
Much better car control. B&W did a damn good job on that car out of the box, how it came. Now, apart from that, other things are, I need to get race tires. I need to get race pads. No, you don't. You're not racing, right? The key word here is race. Racing tires, racing brake pads. You don't need that.
Right.
If you're doing HPDE, look, are the stock compounds great? No, they suck. But will it get you through being a first timer there? Absolutely. You're going to be just fine. You can go with 300 treadwear tires and you're going to be fine, especially if it's your first time there. Now, if you're advanced, different conversation, right?
Sure.
You're pushing the car to a larger limit. You need to change components accordingly.
I remember instructing, I believe it was with Chin. I had a student in an M2, and we do the pre-track conversation that we have with students, and he's telling me his car is tuned. I think it's close to 600 horsepower, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, it's going to be one of those days. And I remember him specifically telling me, because the car was just uncontrollable. It just, you can feel the wheel spin as he's changing gears.
He's driving off traction control at that point.
Yeah, and he's absolutely not having a good time. And I remember telling him, I'm like, listen, just back off a little bit, and then you're gonna have fun. And I remember him. He looked at me. And he says, I'm not having a good time.
Right. No. Right.
He was trying to control this beast.
Right.
And it was just too much horsepower for him. So horsepower is your enemy when you don't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
There's a reason that expression exists, right? It's more fun to drive a slow car fast than a fast car slow.
Yeah.
Everybody should learn on whatever the lowest horsepower, not to make fun of my Miata friends, but a Miata, a BRZ, something like that, you're exponentially better off learning how to drive on that and then slowly stepping up your game from a power standpoint. Because you throw somebody in a car like that and they think that they're doing themselves a favor by putting a tune on it.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
The overwhelming majority of cars, especially for somebody first, second time, have way more power than they need or they can control.
You can hide behind horsepower. You get in a Miata.
Straightaway.
You get in a Miata. You are not hiding.
It humbles you.
Yes.
It really makes you. Yes. As we know. It really humbles you. It really makes you realize, wow, I suck.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. Question for both of you. What are the top 4 to 5 mods that someone who's getting more serious about tracking their car should consider? Let's say, from this is the most important to probably the least important, the last one on your list. Top 3 or 4.
I mean, I guess it depends if are you talking about a first-time person, right? Because
let's say somebody has already gone to a couple of track days and say, I like this, I'm going to stick with it. Yeah. What are the next mods that I should get?
Once you're beyond that, I think everybody, and I was absolutely guilty of this when I was 3 or 4 track days in, right? You get to the point where, you go out the first time and you can get away with your 300 treadwear, regular street tires, and you can get away with your regular street pads and that kind of stuff. And I think everybody, maybe everybody's a stretch, but the overwhelming majority of people have probably gone in search of that magical brake pad that can work both on the street and on the track,
the
right?
unicorn.
Right? So
you're thinking the same thing. The unicorn pad,
right? Your stock brake pad, right? That'll work for your first event, maybe your second. And obviously, all these answers are subjective. It depends on how hard you're pushing, right? But first couple events, you can probably get away with a street pad. By event, maybe depending on how you progress, 6, 7, 8, you definitely need a track pad. There's that little in between there where you're just like, well, I really don't want to spend, $500-$600 on my track pad yet. I don't want to have to try and, I got to take off the wheels every time and swap calipers and I'll, take off the calipers and all that kind of stuff. It's a pain in the butt. So I'm going to find one pad that I can take both to the street and to the track. And you may be able to do that for like an event or two, but it just doesn't exist. You just, once you get to a point, you burn through those street sport pads. They just can't handle the additional stress.
Your number one, you're saying brake pads.
For once somebody has gotten to that level,
yeah.
You're really, like, if you've gone a couple of times and you love it, just bite the bullet, save the $600 on your Street Sport Plus pads, and just go right to a dedicated track pad.
So give me 2, 3, and 4.
Again, tires at that point in time, to John's point earlier, you can get away with 300 treadwear tires for your first few events. Eventually, though, you're much better off going to a 200 treadwear tire. Once you get to that point in time, we talked about fluid already, camber plates, some kind of lower control arm adjustment so that that's one of those things that pays for itself. Takes maybe a year or two to pay for itself, but you'll get an extra 2 events out of a set of tires if you're not rolling over onto the sidewall because you don't have enough negative camber. And look, once you really start pushing, I'm going to say something. I'm going to go a little bit sideways here. You asked the question about modifications of the car, a Hans device. Anybody that is pushing even remotely, I know we all wear Hans devices. Once you get to the point where, look,
what is a Hans device?
A Hans device is, so we all have our helmets here, and the Hans device, sort of the ones that we wear as instructors, we mostly have what's called a hybrid Hans, which will work on both 3-point regular street.
What does it stand
belts.
for?
What does Hans stand for?
Yeah.
Head and neck something.
Restraint system.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, there's no R in there. It should be called Hunters. They've made
Hunters.
They made a terrible flaw. I guess it doesn't roll off the tongue very well, does it?
Yeah.
Anyway, it basically, the hybrids ones that we wear, it sort of straps you around and kind of gives you a hug.
Yeah.
And it's got some tethers that basically, God forbid you get into an accident and your head flies forward, it sort of restrains your head from popping off your neck.
It protects your neck
Right.
and really your back
Yeah.
from detaching.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
for lack of
basically.
better terms.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
So, okay. So safety.
Yes, I would absolutely go safety. And you know what, for your average HPDE person that's going 4 or 5 times a year, if you're not pushing that hard, I don't know that you need to go full cage and all that kind of stuff, and seats and harness. All that stuff will keep you safe. But for the intermediate person, the 3-point belts and all of the safety equipment that cars come with these days, airbags and that kind of stuff, get a Hans, and you can. That's what I wear, and I go into 17 at 145 at Sebring, and I wouldn't want to go much faster than that, though. To be honest with you, once you're going up to, the Turbo S's or the GT cars, the M4s and kind of stuff that have going back to that 600 horsepower. I'm not terribly comfortable doing 150.
So for people that are not aware of, Sebring Turn 17, I think that we should explain that this is not I-95 and you're just going 150 miles an hour straight. No,
Right.
you're actually turning
Yes.
into a corner at 140 miles an hour plus.
And please don't go 150 miles an hour on I-95.
No, I know that there's going to be somebody that's listening saying 145.
Right.
I do that on
Right.
95.
Right.
Yeah. Turn and do it.
Right. It's a little
See
bit.
how that goes.
It's a little bit
Yeah.
harder. Right.
All right, you tell me top 4 or 5 modifications for a guy, a girl that's still driving their car to the track.
Okay. Number 1, brake fluid.
Okay.
Yep. Number 1, brake fluid. I can't even count how many times I've had people come to me with boiled brake fluid. It's
What happens when the brake fluid gets too hot, and how does it get too hot on the track?
so it gets hot because of friction from the brake pads. Pretty much from just the braking system. The heat radiates off, goes onto the fluid. The fluid is a very good conductor, so to speak, and it picks up the fluid. The problem is majority of the brake fluid it's in your car, .4 stuff, for example, if it's a year old, it's lost its wet and dry boiling point by a large margin. So brake fluid hydroscopic, absorbs moisture. As moisture gets hot, steam, all these things turn into bad things, right? The first thing I would do and recommend is new brake fluid. And if you can get SRF, awesome. It's liquid gold. It's expensive as fuck. But that stuff is amazing.
It'll last a long time.
Yeah, and we change it once a year. And honestly, sometimes it feels overkill, but that's a different conversation. Brake fluid, number 1. Number 2, suspension. Now, it depends on the car, whether or not it's camber plates, in my opinion, or just full-on suspension altogether. But suspension makes a car much safer to drive because it's much more predictable. And I'm not talking about 2 or 3 ways. I mean, if you're just starting out, 1 way, just a decent coilover from, let it be Bilstein. Bilstein, Olin's, JRZ.
BCs were actually not bad.
Yeah, BCs are okay. They're not bad for like going out there a first few times. The problem is you'll outgrow them really quick if this is something you get into. But so fluid, suspension, and then at that point, it really depends on the car, right? Because now you're getting to a point of, are the brake pads adequate material? So maybe brake pads at that point, if you're a late brake kind of person, okay? Because there's different personalities on track. There are people that love the late brake like a motherfucker. And there are people that love the trail brake, people that love the just throttle down. So it really depends on what bad habit you picked
Right.
for the next one, right? But regardless, suspension, tires, at least downgrade the tires, or upgrade the tires from my 300 tread where it's like a 200, or a more reputable brand. Mucho Machos aren't going to get you far on track, you know?
Those tires?
Yes.
I have not heard
Mucho
of those.
Machos. Yeah. It's one of many.
I think I had lunch there the other day.
Yes.
Quesadilla is fantastic.
Yeah, the tacos sound like they would be good there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, the braking system is something that I think most people don't understand the abuse that it's going to take at the racetrack. Whenever I have the same conversation with people asking me, hey, how do I get the car ready? And the first thing I tell them is brake fluid. You know, just make sure it's new, and preferably something with a higher boiling point, because you have no idea the stress that the braking system is going to go through.
Because if you're going to spend money, right, on something, should you, and this just makes sense, if you're going to spend money on something, right, you got money burning your hole in their pocket, would you rather spend money on something that is going to help you stop or help you go faster, right? Like, why would you spend money on something that's going to help you go faster if what you
can't stop?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So yes, I prefer.
But the choice A,
right.
you can go fast but not stop.
Right, yes.
Or you can go okay
Or you
fast
can already
and stop.
right, or you can be going already faster than you
Yes.
probably want to be going.
The
and
choice
stop.
is easy
Yeah.
there.
And it's also that it ruins your day. So
Yes.
I have been an instructor and then sitting in the passenger seat in so many cars that have boiled their fluid. And it completely, when it's the first time you're out there, whether it be Sebring, Homestead, or wherever, and you don't change your brake fluid and you go out and you lose brakes, it's a I don't know how to explain the feeling. It's like you are like, that's it. I'm gonna die.
Yeah, it's
This
terrif-
your
it's
is gonna
terrifying.
kill me. It's
When your
terrifying.
stomach goes
Yes,
to your
exactly.
throat.
Exactly.
You have that sinking feeling.
A lot of people don't say, "Fuck, I want to go back out."
Right.
That was great.
Right.
No, people
Yeah.
are like, "This is bad.
I'm
I don't
done."
want to do this
Right.
again."
Yes, they hang it up
Yeah.
like this is not for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
It's
almost
a bad
died.
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Completely. Hey, listen, let's shift gears real quick, Mike. I'm going to turn this over to you. We've been talking about HPDE, so let's talk a little bit more about what is HPDE. What does it stand for? You know, you have a wealth of experience in this field, you being a chief instructor. Who is HPDE for? What kind of driver, does it attract? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. So you're all about giving me the acronym tests today. Like, I didn't study for any of this. HPDE stands
That one's
for
easy.
High Performance Driving Events, Driving Education, Driving Experience. I think the E is sort of interchangeable.
Yes.
I think we do a great job at FARA at leaning on the high performance driving education there, right? We do all kinds of classes, from basic car control, the oversteer that John was talking about earlier, teaching, so many people don't understand, right? The first basics that we talk about are weight transfer, right? People don't understand what weight transfer means, right? You jam on the brakes, all the weight of the car shifts to the front axle. That squatting down of the front axle actually increases the size of the contact patch that's of the rubber that's in contact with the track surface, right? And when that happens, you got more grip up front than you do in the rear of the car. That's why the brake calipers and the brake rotors on the car, you go out and look at your car, the front brakes are a lot bigger than the rear brakes. Well, that's because the people that do all this engineering know that when all that weight gets thrown forward, the contact patch gets bigger, those tires work better, let's put the bigger brakes on that. Same reason that most high performance cars are rear wheel drive, because you got the opposite happening, right? All that weight shifts back. You want the rear tires to be driving because those are the ones that are squatting down and getting larger, right? So we talk a lot about weight transfer, understeer, oversteer.
Give me the 10,000 foot view.
Yes.
Of HPDE.
Yes.
For somebody that is listening in and they have a sports car, they have a Cayman or an M3, and they're listening in, they're wondering, how do I get my car on the track? Can I do that with my car?
Yeah, it's funny you
Give
say
me
that, because that's how I got started in the sport. I had no idea this was a thing, right? I was at home playing Gran Turismo, thinking I was the coolest thing since sliced bread. But like I said, I always enjoyed motorsports, right? So I was on the internet at some point in time. I just stumbled upon a 2002 Corvette So I was on a Corvette forum and somebody mentioned, oh, we're going up to Sebring with Safe Motorsports. And I was just like...
You had a Corvette?
I did. We don't talk about it.
I don't picture that, right?
What?
It's hard to picture that.
No.
That...
Right.
I'm sorry. Continue.
Right.
Continue.
I still have my my New Balance sneakers and my white. My white socks in the closet.
Man,
right.
took the joke away from me.
They're in a time vault at home. So no. Anyway, I was on the internet and some guy said, oh, we're going to do that. I had no idea it was the thing. So yeah, the thing is, and it's great, is, and again, as long as you have any basic car will do, right? You don't need a Bugatti or anything like that. We always talk about Porsches and BMWs and that kind of stuff, but come on out and whatever you have, we're going to give you a little bit of education. Make sure your brake fluid is fresh, that you've got decent pads, decent tires, and yeah, we're gonna get out there. We're gonna put an instructor in the car with you because it's very safe. All right, they're going to be in the right seat. We're going to give you some introductory stuff about what you should do on track. And then, like I said, we've always got somebody in the right seat. They've got a communicator, and they're going to walk you around a lap. And
one of the things that I wanted to mention, because I see this a lot. You and I look at the registrations come in for FARA, and I'm sure that we've seen it for other organizations as well. When we ask about track experience, so we can understand where to place that driver, what run group, right? Is this a novice run group, driver, if they have only a couple of events? Is it an intermediate driver with 5 to 10 track days, or is it advanced? We want to know, what's your track experience.
Sure.
What I've seen a lot, I think people try to shy away from getting an instructor. I'm assuming probably because it costs $100 more, and so under experience, and I kid you not, I see this. I have a lot of drag racing experience, street drag racing experience.
Not
I've
sure
watched,
that's something that you really want to brag
I've watched
about.
a lot of YouTube videos.
Right. Yes.
That's another one.
Right.
What's the other one? Drag racing, YouTube videos, sim racing, which now is more valid than
my Gran Turismo experience when I first started.
Yeah.
Right.
If they say sim racing, okay, that's valid. But if it's like an Xbox thing,
Right.
No, not so much. But yeah,
Right.
that's the kind of stuff that I get. So I think it's important to mention that the instructor is so important, because when you go out there, you have to understand that you really don't know what you're doing. When I think all of us can say the same thing. When you go out there, you realize, I don't know anything. I don't know how to drive. You have to relearn how to drive, because it's opposite of what you learned how to do on the street.
So many things getting down to braking are the complete opposite of what we do on the street. But look, I was exactly the same way, right? I had 3 or 4 days in me, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm getting the hang of this. I want to save my $100, and I want to go solo as quick as possible. And it's you should hold on to that only having to pay $100 for as long as you can. Because I'm telling you, once you go out there and, we do a couple of check rides, right? We have 2 instructors, make sure that we believe that you're safe and capable. You've got good situational awareness. You know where the corner workers are, what the flag definitions are. Once you're out there on your own, trying to teach yourself just by going through gas and brake pads and tires, it's not cheap. And eventually you get to the point after 3 years, 4 years, you're sort of at this plateau. There's other people that have the same car or a slower car that are faster than you, and then you've got to go hire,
somebody like you,
right? Somebody like me, right? And
which is not $100.
I charge you a hell of a lot more than $100, right? So yeah, no, seriously, we make sure that our instructors are highly competent and capable. So yeah, any advice that I could give somebody that has 3 or 4 days and they want to go solo, man, take that cheap $100 experience for as long as you can until the instructors are literally kicking you out of the car.
Absolutely, man.
I can see that.
The $100 is an investment in your education. Again, high performance driver education, right? So $100 is nothing. I definitely fall into that same bucket where I wanted to go solo as quickly as possible. And then I spent the next couple of years just turning laps, trying to figure out what it was that I'm doing wrong because I wasn't going any faster. And then you have to hire somebody like you, $800, $1,600 for the day, whatever the case is way more expensive. So definitely take advantage of that, the $100 extra. Hey, listen, we're going to go into rapid fire questions in regards to HPDE. Okay,
it's a new segment.
Well, I'm looking at the time and I'm like, man, we got a lot to cover here. So this is going to be a rapid fire. So keep your questions like, boom, 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 boom. This one's going to be for both of you. I'm going to start with you, Mike. Best and worst cars for HPDE track days.
Best car, probably a Mazda Miata or a BRZ, especially for a beginner. I mean, I'm leaving out my obvious Porsche answer because you guys get tired of me hearing me say that. Worst car, something that's heavy. Like, stay away from the gigantic sedans that weigh 4,200 pounds and come from the factory with 600 horsepower, because the consumables, brake pads, brake tires, very expensive.
Where would like the Porsche Taycan fall in that category?
In the terrible category.
Yeah,
yes.
just
I mean,
consumables.
any EV is going to be a problem, right? Because you're only going to get 3 laps before you have to recharge it, and just the weight of them is
blazingly fast.
Weight blazingly fast. Yeah, but weight is the enemy, which is why Miata is always the answer.
Right. What do you think?
Best car? Miata.
Best and worst car?
Worst car? Crown Vic.
There you go. Right.
Well, it's heavy. It's got a
I could say Lincoln Town Car. Got a Cadillac Eldorado. I mean, we can go
Minivan.
Yeah, minivan, Pacifica.
not ideal for HPD.
Not ideal for HPDE.
Though I did have my Tesla Model Y in the track one day and got a point buy from a Cayman. That made my day.
Of course.
Burned through the brakes the next corner. That ended badly. But
A lot of people might think track days are only for race cars or high-performance vehicles. Can you clear that up? Can someone bring their daily driver to a HPDE event? And if so, what should they be prepared for?
yes, absolutely, you can bring your daily driver. Right. I started, other than the Corvette that we don't speak about, my first real track car was a Volkswagen Golf R, and a little GTI would have been just as capable. Ford Focuses, like I said, Subaru BRZ. You know, the small and light is sort of the key there. And again, brake fluid is really all you need your first day out.
All right, question number 2. We've all heard of track day etiquette. This is a big topic amongst organizers, right? What are some common mistakes people make during their first few track days, and how can they avoid them?
I think the number one thing is to leave your ego at home, because it's a lot harder than it looks, right?
100%. Ego.
Yeah.
Ego.
That is the number one answer. People come in and they think that they're great, and they realize before they've gotten to the end of the first lap, oh, this is harder than it looks. You know, it really is. So I would say the number one thing would be that.
I think you should open up your meetings, or your
The driver meetings?
the driver meetings, as you don't know shit.
Right. Yes. Right.
So,
we'll change that to be the first slide.
Let's start with this.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
On the slide, you don't know shit. Something to consider. All right, question number 3. As a new HPDE participant, what should someone expect from their first track day? What are the main things they should focus on, especially when it comes to safety and getting the most out of their experience?
Right. Brake fluid. Have we said?
There's
Has somebody
a recurring
mentioned brake
theme
fluid?
here.
I don't know. We mentioned brake fluid. Yeah. Once you get brake fluid, honestly, drinking, and I don't mean the alcoholic variety.
Thank you for clarifying that.
You should be going through water like it's going out of Gatorade, Pedialyte, whatever. Pick your poison.
Absolutely.
Do not get a good night's sleep the night before. No going out in South Beach until 2:00 in the morning.
You're not a race car driver yet.
Right, exactly. Right. And just prepare for like sensory overload. It's a lot, right? I mean, like we go out to SLS, I sit on the grid, and there's still a little bit of butterflies there, and we've got thousands of laps at this point in time, over hundreds of track days. So just go into it, check your ego, make sure the car is ready, make sure you're well rested.
Try not to drive to the track the day of.
Yeah. Well, that goes back to my get a good night's sleep, right?
Oh, my
right.
God.
Yeah. If you're coming,
I've been
coming from 2 hours away and tech starts at 7:30 in the morning,
it's a rough day.
Yeah, you get a good night's sleep in a hotel near the track the night before instead of getting up at 3:00 in the morning and driving.
As I got older, I realized that was certainly a luxury, right? As you get older,
Sure,
you can make a little bit more money. Right. When you're young, you're like, I'll just drive there and save myself $150 from the hotel.
Right.
As I got older, I'm like,
No.
Right about the time you're falling asleep in the driver's meeting, you realize that maybe that wasn't such a good idea.
Yep.
All right. Question number 4. There's often a fear of not being fast enough from beginner drivers. How do you address that fear with new drivers, and why is it important to focus on driving within your limits?
Well, by fear of not being fast enough,
they're going to get. They're afraid that they're going to get in other people's ways.
Right. Okay. Well, that's why we very clearly in the beginner group have rules about point buys, right? And that's why you've got an instructor sitting in the right seat, because their eye is in the rearview mirror. That way, the beginner can focus forward, right?
On the
So all you have
windshield.
to worry, right, exactly. Instruct out the windshield, drive out the windshield, right? It's all about vision. So look, you're going to be slow, right? All of us were slow. I can only imagine how horrible I was on my first track event. That was like before GoPros because I'm so old, so I don't have video of it, but I would pay like $500 for it because I'm sure I was terrible. Everybody is terrible. Every one of us, if you go back and think about your first event, was awful. So just don't worry about it, right? There are people of all skill level, cars of all different performance variety. The overwhelming majority of my good friends are people that I met at the track now. Everybody is there to help, to make sure you have a good time, put you at ease. So just go out, do your best, have a great time, and don't worry about it.
Also, something worth mentioning is that we're not going to throw a beginner driver to the track with advanced drivers.
Right.
They're going to have their own run group with other noobs to the track. So it's not something they really have to worry about.
Yeah, no, excellent point. All those run groups are separated basically by what comes down to lap time. I mean, it's about experience, but at the end of the day, it really is lap time. So yeah, you're going to be out there with a group of like-minded people that have a similar amount of experience. Just relax and have a great time.
All right, let's talk quickly about the importance of driver progression as it relates to HPDE, right? At what point do drivers usually start to transition from novice to intermediate solo? And what does that shift look like in terms of skill and mindset?
Yeah, it really depends is the answer. You've got some people, I mean, I've ridden with people that it was their second or third day and they were ready to go solo, right? And then I've been with people that are on the day number 15 and they're still not ready to go solo. And that's the reason that we do the check rides and we have two instructors ride with you, right? We don't want to just rely on, hey, your one instructor just wanted to cut out early for the day or wasn't feeling well, so they said, oh yeah, this guy's good to go solo, right? We always make sure you have two sets of eyes to make sure that you're ready to go solo. And then we continuing, right? Exactly. Just the continuing education. We have the classroom is tailored for that, right? We've got novice classrooms, we've got intermediate classrooms, we've got advanced classrooms. So sort of as you progress and start to gain more experience and more speed, there's something for everybody to make sure that we're continuing that, right? I'm not going to teach somebody on their first day to turn in early and to trail break. That's just not going to work. But when you start working with intermediate students that are like, hey, this guy's got the same car as I do, but in the advanced group, and I'm looking at his lap times and he's 5 seconds faster. How is that possible? All right, well, let's start doing a little bit more, advanced techniques so that you can practice that and eventually make that next step up.
All right, John, let's shift gears over back to you. You also own and operate Corsa Technik. Now, how do you pronounce that correctly? Technik.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Corsa Technik, a performance automotive shop. Tell us a little bit about the shop, the kind of cars you typically service, what it's like running a performance-focused shop day to day.
Right. So the vision was I was working at Ferrari actually. After over a decade at BMW, 5-6 years of Ferrari, I figured out not that I can do better, but customer service is something that I can intertwine that really well with my ability to fix cars. I think I can do this. So that's where Corsa Technik was born. Started in 2017. We've been in business over 8 years now. It's been an awesome ride, roller coaster, but it's been an awesome ride. And it's really taught me how to put together my hobby, I guess more so of my passion, and make into a job that I love doing. It's awesome to go into work every day and not only having a great work environment, but having a great place where I know everything, apart from everything being done right, that I can provide a service to somebody they're looking for, not break the bank, and then be completely content with their car after they're done. It's just an awesome feeling, right? Or I would do something with my hands, and the result is this car's faster, this car handles better, this car is fixed, this whatever it might be. It's an awesome, gratifying feeling.
So the mantra, from what I understand, for your shop is you're providing dealer-style service at a much lower cost.
Correct. We have all the same scan tools, and we go actually above and beyond procedures. From being in the dealer, figured out everything that worked and a lot of what didn't work, inefficiencies in the system. And what we did was make it where it's, you bring your car in, every car gets an inspection right? So it doesn't matter if you bring your car in, for example, an oil change or an engine or wipers. It's going to get a 35-point inspection. And at that point, you get a foundation of what you're looking at for your car, right? It's not something we're charging for. It's just something that we can tell you, hey, your tires are done. You're pouring oil. Your wipers are, even something as simple as your wipers are streaking.
To which the customer usually goes, I just came here for the oil change.
Yeah. Right. This guy's trying to screw me.
Which is totally fine, right? Because we totally understand the mantra
Right.
that it's such a bad, like, it's not even mantra. It's such a bad, what's the word?
The industry has a bad rap.
Yes, the industry has a really bad rap. So we do everything by when we do the inspections, we actually provide pictures and videos and everything because we believe in full transparency. I've been in too many scenarios getting my own car fixed at dealers where they completely fucked me so bad, paying for things that weren't done, not knowing what the person did. I hate that shit. And I never wanted someone to leave my shop with that same feeling.
So we kind of covered a little bit about, customer, having bad experiences.
Yeah.
I want to hear about the other side of that, right? What kind of nightmare stories, can you tell us having running a shop? What kind of crazy stories that, maybe customers have done, in the past that you've encountered?
I mean,
this is where the anonymous portion of the show is very important for John's future business.
Strongly anonymous. I have two actually really good stories. One is just a funny one. We performed a lot of service on a specific car. I don't want to name it because it might, on a specific car.
We can't say BMW or anything like that. You'd
BMW.
rather not.
Let's say BMW. Let's say
Okay.
BMW. There's a lot of BMWs to work on. So,
Yes.
we did a large service on a BMW. Waiting for the customer to come pick up. We don't hear from the customer for like a day or two. Sometimes it happens. They're out of town, whatever the scenario might be. Come in one day, my advisor calls me. Hey, did this customer pick up their car?
The BMW's gone.
I'm like, no. What the fuck are you talking about? This BMW isn't here anymore.
Yeah.
Go back. We're like, what is going on? What, like, why is this car not here? Holy shit, call the police. Start the whole process of the car getting stolen.
Yeah. Did you try to reach out to the customer at that point?
Yes.
Like, your car's not here.
We called,
You didn't happen to pick
email,
up your
text,
car at
everything.
2:00 in the morning, did
Yeah.
you?
And I looked at our cameras. And our cameras was someone random getting in the car and struggling with the door and getting in. We're like, holy fuck, this car got stolen.
Yeah.
Customer calls us. Hey guys, I just need to pay for my car. We're like, what the fuck are you talking about? You need to pay for your car. Have you not heard our voicemail? Your car is not here. Yeah, no, it's okay. I gave the keys to my offspring
A friend.
to pick up my car. Someone picked up the car at like 4 a.m. with a black hoodie, and they fumbled the keys. They fumbled the keys in the door.
Like they were nervous.
It looked completely every single thing. Even when the police came, looked at the video, we're like, oh yeah, someone stole this car.
Yeah.
Let's make a police report. They were like, it was crazy.
Wait, so what happened then?
No, the customer just picked it up. The customer thought it was completely okay to come pick up the car before paying because he had an extra key.
Oh.
We still had his key.
Right.
Okay, but he wasn't refusing to pay.
No, but it was like nothing ever happened.
Have you ever had that though? That like a customer try to steal their own car before paying?
This was a one and only chance. So now we changed for certain systems in place where that can't happen anymore.
Oh, okay.
But this was a wake up call to us. Like, holy shit, this could happen.
Yeah.
It would just so happen that this person actually called us unknowingly that this was going to be a problem.
You've had to also have encounters where you give a customer the bill and they freak out, and this is not what I'm expecting. You kind of shared with me a little bit. Female customers, their go-to is what?
Crying. And look, it's I don't want to laugh about this, right? Because it's not something to laugh about. I understand there are like hard scenarios and people fall on hard times. I completely understand. The thing is that, and I know my service advisor, Akira, he'll attest to this, that people somehow treat us as their shrink.
Really?
And it's a crazy thing because they trust us with their cars. They feel like they trust us with their emotions, which is fine. I am all for talking, hanging out, and all this stuff. But
John,
some people really open up.
I'm going through a divorce, and you got to understand,
Some
times
people
are rough.
really open up, and you're just like,
This is getting uncomfortable.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Your bill is still $300.
Here's your bill.
Your battery is still done in your car. So what do you want to do? So I've had this scenario so many times, and it's something that people get really comfortable and they open up to you, which is awesome, But
they get comfortable opening up with you, which makes you guys very uncomfortable.
Which makes us very uncomfortable because we're all for being your friend and listening to everyone's problems. But there comes a point where like we don't need to know that you're living not in your house, or you're in a divorce, or your husband's cheating on you, or you're cheating on him. Like, we don't need to know this. Just, you want to pay for your oil change?
Right. You start filing that like this is too much information.
Yeah, we're just like, yeah, this is cool. What?
And meanwhile, you're like, I have 13 other cars that I need to get to.
Yeah, and you'll be surprised how often this happens. And it happens a lot. It happens a lot. And I understand people fall in hard times, and a lot of people don't expect their bills sometimes because we're a European focused repair facility, and we work on a lot of European cars and exotics. So
expensive cars,
and expensive cars, unfortunately, have the expensive bills, expensive maintenance. And at the turn of someone coming in and saying, "Oh, how much? I didn't know how much this was." We have everything in place just for them to see the price before they even approve it, but they still come in after and still cry about it.
There's a reason why used BMWs are so inexpensive. Because the repairs are not inexpensive.
Not just BMWs.
Well, I'm using that as an example.
Yeah.
Because you'll see used BMWs like, I don't know, $6,000-$7,000. Go ahead and buy that and see what it costs once you take it to the shop. Right?
I have no idea what Vanos is. I just know it's expensive to fix.
Depends on the car. Yeah, it depends on the car. It really
know
depends.
it breaks.
A lot of people think, man, I got a great deal on this car. No, you didn't. If someone starts the conversation with, I got a great deal in this car, I immediately want to say, you got fucked.
Right, yeah. Right. Come back to me in a year.
Yeah, you got fucked.
15,000 miles later.
Let me look at the car, and you're going to learn how much of a good deal it was.
Yeah.
Very rarely do you find a good deal where it's like, wow, this car's really clean. You're right.
You, as the shop owner, are thinking, no, I got a good
deal. But to be honest, no, because I don't like taking advantage of people.
Right.
In that specific scenario, someone took advantage of that person, and it puts me in a positive scenario, but I don't want to be in that scenario. I'd rather you bring me a car and say, hey man, everything's going awesome. I want to maintain my investment of this vehicle to make it the best it can be, right? We treat every car as an investment. Right. So I want this investment to keep on trucking so it can pay me back in miles and safety. That's what we want.
John, the Corsa Technik, your shop, is expanding quickly. You are actually moving into a new, larger facility this week, next week.
Yeah.
So, huge congratulations.
Thank you. I
to
appreciate
the very, very well-deserved success that you've had.
Thank you.
Along with that growth, I know you've recently launched an exciting new Arrive and Drive program called Velocity Track Experience, where you rent out track prep cars and offer trackside support. Tell us a little bit about that, what that program entails, what kind of cars you rent out.
It's an awesome program. So we saw this void of renting HPDE cars, right? A lot of people rent race cars, but it comes with a very lackluster service sometimes. And we want to provide not just the awesome service behind it, but also HPDE cars. So we rent this, and specifically, we have an ND Miata, 2018 ND Miata. It's an awesome car. It's one of the fleet. We also have a E90 spec E90 car that we have as a rental. It's a full race car. E92 M3 race car.
And people can just show up, pay the fee,
of course,
and get on the track.
Yeah, and it includes your track insurance, includes pretty much everything other than if you fuck it up, and your track entry.
Right.
So it's a great way for you to, if you don't have that car, right? If you drive that Crown Vic or that Pacifica, for you to rent a car, come out, have a great time, and not worry about any consumable in the car. Because we cover the fuel, we cover the tires, we cover the brakes.
Well, it's also a good way for we're fortunate that we've got a couple of great tracks in our backyard, right? But
Yeah.
when we go to Sebring, right, if you're outside of the Florida area and you want to check off that bucket list of driving Sebring International Raceway, hop in a plane from wherever you are, fly in, rent a car at Orlando Airport, drive in, just do an arrive and drive, and fly back home.
Exactly right.
Yep.
No strings attached.
Well, unfortunately, that is the end of another episode. I know we've had a lot of fun doing this. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to click that subscribe and like button. If you are a driver, a race car driver, HPDE driver, instructor, or whatever, and you have cool stories, interesting stories that you want to share, reach out. We would love to have you on the show and have you tell your stories. And remember, everything interesting happens off the racing line. See you next time.
Everything interesting happens off the racing line. I took the hard road, I've earned these stripes. The road from dreamer to driver ain't always straight. Kept my head down, fueled by faith. I lost some time, but